Your leadership style doesn't align with our new vision, she said flatly, not even pretending to make it personal. And just like that, 16 years of my life at Iron Crest Technologies ended in a 15-minute meeting. My name is Helen Marks, and I led our custom development division out of Cleveland, Ohio. I wasn't flashy. I didn't build with buzzwords or AI hype. I built with handshakes, trust, and honest problem solving. But the new CEO, Madison Leigh, had other ideas. She came in 6 months ago from a trendy fintech startup in Austin, armed with glossy PowerPoint decks and a digital-first mantra. The board ate it up. I stayed focused. My division brought in nearly 72% of Iron Crest's annual revenue. My team didn't need algorithms to win loyalty. We knew our clients by name, knew their kids' birthdays. But to Madison, that was legacy thinking. You still use a paper planner, she once mocked in a meeting. That's adorable. I kept quiet, until the day her assistant knocked on my office door, awkward smile shifting feet. Ms. Leigh would like to see you at 2 p.m. in the executive boardroom. I nodded, returned to my call with Convergence Dynamics, our largest client, midway through finalizing a $14.7 million renewal I'd spent 9 months cultivating. I walked into a sterile boardroom that used to hold real strategy sessions. Now it was all glass walls, cold lights, and decorative screens. Madison didn't waste time. "We're restructuring," she said. "Your methods, while appreciated, don't match where we're headed." I stood, shook her hand, and walked out with my head high. No scene, no begging, but here's the thing in enterprise tech. Trust isn't coded, it's earned. And when I left, that trust left with me. If you're listening to this, maybe on your commute, maybe at the kitchen table, tell me where you're from. Drop your city in the comments. I want to see how far this story travels. And if you've ever been pushed aside for being too experienced or not digital enough, you're not alone. Stay with me. This story's just getting started. We were finalizing a 5-year, $14.7 million contract renewal, the kind of deal that only came from real trust. I'd had quarterly dinners with Jack Collier, the CEO of Convergence Dynamics, for over a decade. Not because I had to, but because we built something real. The boardroom looked different since Madison Leigh took over as CEO. Gone were the long mahogany tables and whiteboards. Now it was all glass walls, touchscreen panels, and curated modern art. Sterile. Disconnected. 3 people waited inside Madison, her assistant and someone from HR I didn't recognize. I knew before she said a word. "Helen, we appreciate everything you've done for Iron Crest Technologies." Madison began, fingers laced over her digital tablet. "But we're moving in a new direction. Leadership that better aligns with our innovation goals." She avoided saying "you're too old," but it hung there. I nodded. No argument. Just calm acceptance. 16 years gone in 16 minutes. What Madison didn't understand was that in enterprise, tech trust isn't automated. It's not built on KPIs or CRM dashboards. It's built on showing up, listening, knowing a client's business better than they do. I packed up while the office was empty quiet. No farewell emails, no dramatic exits. Just dignity. But when I sat in my car, the shock finally caught up. 3 missed calls from Jack. He'd already heard. I joined Iron Crest when it was still just 20 people working above a machine shop near the old rail yards. I'd left a 6-figure role at Metrotech Systems because I believe software should serve people, not just profits. Roger McMillan, our original founder, hired me with one line: "I don't want a numbers robot. I want someone who gives a damn." That stuck. I rebuilt our entire development division from scratch. I put 80,000 miles on my Chevy visiting clients from Chicago to Buffalo. I knew their stories, their staff, their struggles. When Roger retired and his son took over, the board got anxious. Modernize, they said. Disrupt. And when Roger's son passed from cancer last fall, no one stood up for the old way. Not anymore. But I still believed in it. And so did our clients. Board meetings had become predictable. Words like antiquated floated around like smoke. There were questions: why hadn't my team embraced social media campaigns? Why weren't we using advanced CRM tools? Tyler Reed, my assistant director, the one I'd mentored for nearly a decade, started getting invited to strategy sessions I wasn't even told about. He'd come back uneasy. They're talking about splitting us up, he said one afternoon, eyes lowered. Digital sales. Separate from legacy operations. I should have seen it coming. I should have said something when they hired 3 digital engagement specialists and dropped them onto my team without asking. Or when my oldest clients, people I'd built lifelong relationships with, were reassigned without explanation. The day Jack Collier called me to say some kid introduced himself as his new account manager, I felt the pit in my stomach drop. "What's going on over there, Helen?" he asked. "Just a little restructuring." I lied, but I was worried. Not because I couldn't compete, because I didn't recognize the rules anymore. The day after I was let go, I sat alone in my home office staring at my phone. 17 missed calls, 32 texts, 6 urgent emails, all from clients and partners who'd heard the news. I hadn't told anyone, not even Greg, my husband, who was visiting our daughter in upstate New York. I needed space to think. The call I finally took came from Jack. "What the hell happened?" he barked. "They're going in a new direction?" I said, echoing Madison's cold script. "You are Iron Crest to most of us," Jack snapped. "Do they even realize that he told me he'd met with my replacement, some bright-eyed MBA who spent 40 minutes on charts and never once asked about their new logistics platform, which I knew had been keeping Jack up at night?" "They won't figure it out," he said flatly. "People like that don't ask questions. They just install systems." After we hung up, I opened the email from HR. 6 months severance, 90 days of health insurance, a non-disparagement clause, a 1-year non-compete. I nearly laughed. They thought a piece of paper could erase decades of trust. My phone buzzed again. Megan Ortiz from Phoenix Innovations this time. Another longtime client, another relationship forged through years of face-to-face problem solving. "I heard what happened," she said when I picked up. "It's their loss." She wasn't the first. By that evening, I'd heard from a dozen clients representing nearly 40% of Iron Crest's annual revenue. Each message carried the same tone: loyalty to me, not the company I no longer belonged to. I sat in the backyard as the sun dropped behind the maple trees, bourbon in hand, replaying those conversations. They'd fired me because I didn't fit their shiny new model, because my notebook was filled with handwritten notes, not CRM dashboards. But what if that was the exact reason people trusted me? What if what Madison Leigh labeled outdated was actually my edge? I called my attorney. "Ben, I need you to review something." "The non-compete Iron Crest dropped in my severance." "They let you go?" he asked, surprised. "They did. And I'm starting to think it was the best thing that ever happened to me. I didn't want revenge. I just wanted to keep doing what I loved, helping clients find solutions that actually worked. And if Iron Crest no longer valued that, plenty of others still did." That night, for the first time since I cleared my desk, I slept through the night. But back at the company, desperation was rising. Madison needed a win. With their European expansion faltering and Asian partners pulling back, she pushed through a reckless new plan, an aggressive expansion into Southeast Asia built on overhyped projections and vague buzzwords. There was just one problem. A proposal that size required final approval from Director of Global Strategy. That title, still legally mine. She assumed I was too burned out, too isolated to be paying attention. She assumed wrong. Before leaving, I'd kept quiet access to Iron Crest's document repository. No sabotage, just quiet oversight. It had become a nightly ritual, a quiet scan of what they were building without the foundation I'd laid. And if you believe stories like this deserve to be heard, go ahead and subscribe, because the next chapter is already unfolding, and I'd love for you to be part of it. That's when I saw the file. Grand promises, faulty numbers, and at the bottom, my name, my digital signature, forged. I scrolled to the final page of the document. There it was, my name neatly typed in the approval box. Next to it, a signature, mine, or rather, a perfect digital forgery, copied from an earlier proposal I'd signed months ago. For a moment, the world fell silent. Just the hum of my laptop and the slow, cold tightening in my chest. It wasn't just arrogance. It was criminal. They hadn't just misused my name. They'd stolen my identity to approve a reckless, multi-million-dollar international expansion I never would have signed off on. This wasn't office politics anymore. This was federal territory. My sadness dissolved into something sharper, focused. I moved methodically, saving the document, pulling the metadata. The file's audit trail unfolded clearly. Created by Tyler Reed, last modified by Madison Leigh. I took screenshots, captured file paths, server details, timestamps, a digital chain of custody, undeniable, unshakable. Madison thought she had erased me. What she actually did was turn me into her greatest liability. 2 weeks after my termination, I sat across from my attorney, Ben Foster, in his downtown Cleveland office. He slid a paper toward me. This non-compete, he said, tapping it, practically worthless. Overreaching scope, vague definitions, and they can't block you from using your general expertise. So I could start something new, I asked. You could. Ben nodded, but expect blowback. They'll probably still sue. Not because they can win, but because they can afford to make it painful. I stared at the document. What if I don't chase clients directly? I asked. What if I just made myself available? Ben smiled. Now that he said is a very different story. The next morning, I quietly filed paperwork for a new firm, ClearPath Consulting. No press release, no LinkedIn post, just a modest LLC in the state of Ohio built for one purpose: to give clients an option that wasn't wrapped in jargon spreadsheets or ego. An option they could trust. No hunting, no poaching. But if they came looking, I'd be ready. There was no flashy launch, no logo reveal, no mass email campaign. ClearPath Consulting existed only as a legal entity, bare bones with a bank account, an EIN, and a purpose. Quiet, intentional. 3 days later, my phone rang. Jack Collier. I hear you've set up shop, he said, skipping the pleasantries. I smiled. News travels fast. In this industry, it flies, he replied. Then his tone shifted lighter, to lower sharp with intent. I need help on our winter deployment. Iron Crest's new team is pushing generic off-the-shelf platforms. He paused. But our data and my gut say we should stick with custom integrations. I need someone who speaks both languages, tech and business. Someone who knows our people. I hesitated. Not because I didn't want to help, because it was still new. I'm still figuring things out, Jack. I'm not asking you to compete with Iron Crest, he said. Just consult. Quietly. No contracts, no press. Think of it as fractional leadership. It was smart, safe, thoughtfully outside the boundaries of my non-compete. I'll think about it, I said. Don't take too long, he warned. We're making critical calls next week. After we hung up, another call came in. Tyler Reed. The caller ID made me pause. Can we meet? He asked quietly. Someplace off the radar. We picked a quiet coffee shop near the Cuyahoga River, far from downtown's polished chaos. Tyler arrived late, eyes scanning the room like he expected Madison Leigh herself to show up. It's bad, he whispered, settling across from me. They made me director technically, but I'm a puppet. Every real decision comes from the digital team. They're steamrolling operations. I sipped my coffee, slow and silent. Not entirely shocking, I said. They've reassigned your accounts, rolled out software nobody can use. 3 senior reps have already quit. And the clients I asked. He leaned in, furious. Collier, Ortiz, even Heller from Apex. They're being ignored, bounced around. Everyone feels lost. I nodded slowly, my expression unreadable, but inside I was already 10 moves ahead. The structure was cracking, and I wasn't even the one swinging the hammer. No, Helen, you don't get it. Tyler leaned forward, voice low and urgent. They're tearing down everything you built. He glanced around the cafe, then lowered his voice even more. They reassigned all your major accounts to the new digital team. Forced a new CRM system no one can use, especially not the senior reps. 3 have already quit. I kept my face calm, my hands steady around my coffee mug. And the clients, I asked? Tyler gave a slow, resigned nod. That's the heart of it. Phoenix Innovations is threatening to walk. Megan Ortiz has been livid. Jack Collier hasn't returned a single message in over a week. Everyone's rattled. The Q3 projections, a mess. He exhaled shakily. And Madison, she's blaming expected turbulence during the modernization. Then he hesitated. There's more. Legal's watching you. I raised an eyebrow. They had a meeting last week. Ma, your name came up. They're convinced you're planning to poach clients even though you haven't made a single move. Now it made sense, his nerves, his secrecy. He was risking everything just to warn me. Thanks for telling me, Tyler, I said quietly. He gave a stiff nod, then slid a plain envelope under the table. Client list, he murmured. Personal contacts, emails, numbers. It's accurate. I didn't give this to you. We never met. You understand. He stood up and walked out without looking back. I sat there for a long time. The envelope was small, but it felt heavy. Symbolic. Opening it using that information, that was exactly the move Iron Crest's legal team expected. It would justify an immediate lawsuit. And worse, it could destroy Tyler's career. They'd set the trap well. So I made a different choice. I left the envelope on the table untouched when I walked out. A month passed. I hadn't reached out to a single Iron Crest client. Not one. Still calls came in daily from small software firms, tech labs, startups, all asking the same thing, Helen, can we talk? And without breaking a single rule, the tide was already turning. I declined every offer, politely citing professional considerations. The non-compete was shaky, but I wasn't about to test it on Iron Crest's terms. Instead, I focused on a different circle: independent developers, university labs, early-stage VCs. Work that kept me engaged, off their radar, and legally clean. My reputation had legs, it seemed. It had walked out of Iron Crest with me. Then came an invitation I didn't expect. Harold Sloan, chairman of Iron Crest's board, wanted to meet. Not at headquarters. At his private club downtown. Out of curiosity, I said yes. The Cleveland Heritage Club was all mahogany paneling, brass fixtures, and hush. Harold, white-haired and 70, waited in a private room with 2 tumblers of scotch already sweating on the table. Thank you for coming, he said, sliding a glass toward me. I imagine you're wondering why. The thought crossed my mind. I said, non-committal. He sighed. Things aren't going as we'd hoped. Revenue's down 38%. Client retention is the worst in company history. That digital transformation Madison pushed, it's alienated our core base. I nodded slightly, taking a slow sip. I kept my face unreadable. You're not surprised, he observed. Technology's still a relationship business, I replied. Always has been. Harold gave a quiet chuckle. So, I'm learning. Then he leaned forward, dropping the mask. The board is concerned. Madison's background may have worked at a flashy consumer app company, but enterprise software is different. It's not about speed, it's about trust. Why are you telling me this? I asked. He met my eyes steady. We'd like you to come back as Chief Revenue Officer, reporting directly to the board, above Madison. I didn't flinch, but inside my pulse ticked up. Harold let it settle in. Full control of client strategy, rebuild your team, double your previous salary. I said nothing for a long moment. Finally, I placed the glass down softly. I'll think about it, I said. He nodded. Don't take too long. Things are unraveling fast. And in that moment, I knew something with complete clarity. They weren't offering me redemption. They were offering me cleanup duty for their mess. The vindication was almost sweet, but I showed nothing. What about Tyler? I asked. Harold exhaled. He's trying. But he doesn't have your relationships, your grasp of the field. And Madison. His jaw tightened. She wouldn't have a choice. Suddenly, it all snapped into place. This wasn't just about a bad quarter. This had been in motion long before my termination. Madison was never fully vetted. She was Roger McMillan's son's final hire before illness took hold. The board had reservations, but backed off out of respect. And after his death, she acted unchecked, reshuffling leadership, clearing out loyalists, consolidating power. My firing wasn't about methodology. It was about removing anyone who remembered what Iron Crest used to be. Harold leaned forward, voice smooth but heavy. We're offering double your salary, full control of client strategy, total board backing to rebuild your team from scratch. It was everything I once would have wanted. Title, power, recognition. I'll need time to consider, I said evenly. Of course, he replied, but the urgency in his tone betrayed him. Just don't wait too long. I drove home in silence, his words echoing. They hadn't just realized they made a mistake. They'd known. They let it happen until it hurt their bottom line. Now they wanted me to fix it, not as a returning leader, but as a tool, a scalpel. They needed someone with my credibility to dismantle Madison's vision from the inside, to reverse the damage without admitting fault. They didn't want my leadership. They wanted my loyalty weaponized. But I wasn't angry. Just clear. The next morning, I declined Harold's offer via email. Brief, respectful. His reply came fast. A sweetened package, more stock options, added incentives. I didn't respond. Because deep down, Harold already knew. I wasn't coming back to clean up their mess. I had my own vision now, and it didn't involve rescuing the structure that once erased me. I didn't respond to Harold's follow-up. My mind had already moved on toward a different kind of future. One that didn't include returning to the very structure that tried to erase me. Instead, I made 3 phone calls. The first was to Jack Collier. I'm ready to talk consulting, I told him, but I'd like to take a different route. I'm listening, he said instantly. Curious. I won't consult exclusively for convergence. I'm building a collective, a consortium of independent developers and enterprise specialists. No rigid contracts, no bloated org charts. Just experts helping each other, sharing market insight and infrastructure. I'll facilitate. He was quiet for a beat. Then how many others have you approached? None yet, I said. You're the first. Because I trust you. If you think it works, I'll build it. If not, I'll stay solo. I'm in, Jack said. And I know at least 5 others who will be too. My second call went to Megan Ortiz at Phoenix Innovations. Not only was she on board, she offered smart refinements to the idea, a shared digital platform, pooled licensing, cross-client collaboration. She made the vision stronger. The third call was to Ben Foster, my attorney. You're not soliciting their clients directly? He asked. No, I said. They come if they choose. I'm creating a structure, not targeting. Ben smiled over the phone. It's subtle, but it's legally solid. And honestly, it's brilliant. 2 weeks later, ClearPath Consulting launched under a larger initiative, the Alliance. 7 founding members. All former Iron Crest clients either recently gone or preparing their exit. Each contributed to a shared operations fund to cover modest infrastructure. No hierarchy. No titles. The point wasn't to compete with Iron Crest, it was to create something they couldn't replicate. A flexible, trusted network where independence met collaboration. Where solutions weren't dictated, they were designed together. No one crowned me CEO, no launch video, no corporate fanfare. I was simply the facilitator. The one person who still understood what every client needed before they had to ask. We rented a modest office just outside Lakewood, far from the high-rises, where Iron Crest and other tech giants clustered downtown. It wasn't flashy, just quiet, practical, and ours. I hired 2 people, a recent college grad with sharp instincts for digital comms, and a semi-retired ops manager who knew how to hold systems together without breaking budgets. By the end of our first month, 3 more developers joined the Alliance. By month 2, we had to move into a bigger space. I never reached out to Iron Crest clients. I didn't have to. They came on their own, frustrated, disoriented, and ready for something real. They were tired of Madison Leigh's digital-first agenda. Tired of being ignored. At the core, they wanted what Iron Crest had stripped away people who listened. One evening in late September, Tyler Reed called me. They know what you're doing, he said, his voice tight. Madison's furious. She's threatening legal action. We haven't violated a thing, I said calmly. And we hadn't. That won't stop her from trying, he muttered. There's a board meeting tomorrow. It's going to be brutal. I wanted to ask any chance there's room for me. I smiled quietly. Come by tomorrow, I said. We'll talk. He wasn't the first. He wouldn't be the last. By October, the cracks were no longer whispers. The quarterly earnings call confirmed it. Iron Crest revenue had dropped 45%. Jack Collier texted me screenshots of the transcript. Madison blamed market disruption. She didn't mention the flood of long-term clients who'd walked. That afternoon, my phone rang again. Patricia Harrington, Iron Crest board member. "We've decided to waive your non-compete," she said. "Legal is drafting a cease and desist, though." "Before you serve it?" I replied evenly. "Have you spoken to your clients?" There was silence. "Have you asked them why they left?" More silence. The truth didn't need a legal defense. It was already showing up in balance. Sheets, empty offices, and voicemails. No one returned. And the alliance? "We were just getting started." "That's not relevant," Patricia snapped. "It's the only thing that matters." I cut in. They left because Iron Crest stopped valuing what actually built this business. "Would you consider joining our board meeting to explain I'm in my own meeting?" I said, glancing around at 15 developers who had chosen a different future. Then I ended the call. The cease and desist never came. 3 days later, Madison Leigh stepped down amid what the press called executive realignment. Internally, it was collapse. 6 months into the alliance, we'd expanded again, now 23 member developers with a waitlist spanning the Midwest. TechCrunch called it the relationship revolution. The New York Times said we were restoring soul to enterprise software. I hadn't meant to start a movement. I just wanted to protect what worked. Then Harold Sloan called. "Iron Crest has new leadership," he said. "We'd like to discuss joining the alliance." I smiled. "That's not how this works, Harold. We're not taking on members your size. A partnership." "Then I'll bring it to the Leadership Council," I said already, knowing their answer. Most joined to get away from what Iron Crest became. I walked the open floor of our new space. No glass-walled offices or ivory towers. Just desks, conversations, purpose. Tyler looked up from a cluster of code reviews. "Everything?" "Good. Just fine," I said, smiling. "Iron Crest wants in." He chuckled, full circle. Later that evening, I sat at Edgewater Park, my usual spot to think. No noise, no problems, just stillness. What we'd built wasn't flashy, but it was solid, sustainable, real, and in tech. That's rare. Sometimes getting fired is the best thing that can happen. It forces you to build something more honest than what you left behind. And silence. It isn't weakness. Sometimes it's the most powerful tool in the room. It's what you choose when your work speaks for itself. If you've ever walked away from a place that forgot your worth, if you're still rebuilding quietly, you're not alone. Your voice matters. And when you're ready, the right people will hear it. In the months that followed, the alliance continued to grow, not through campaigns or press releases, but through word-of-mouth quiet recommendations and results that spoke louder than any sales deck. We expanded into Columbus, then Ann Arbor, then Des Moines. Each new member brought something unique, and no one had to abandon their identity to belong. That was the beauty of collaboration without compromise. I never took a title beyond facilitator. That's all I ever wanted, to be someone who helped good people find each other and do great work. And Iron Crest, they continued to spiral, cycling through leadership, pushing out another rebrand, desperately trying to recapture something they didn't understand how they lost. I no longer watched with bitterness, just quiet clarity. They had bet on control. We had built on trust, and trust doesn't fade in quarterly cycles. It deepens. It compounds. One rainy Thursday afternoon, I received a handwritten card from a new client in Missouri. It simply read, "Thank you for building something that still feels human." I kept it pinned to the corkboard above my desk, not for validation, but as a reminder. Technology evolves, strategies shift. But people still want to feel seen, heard, valued. That's what we'd created. Not a rebellion, not a revolution, just a return to something too many had forgotten. If you've ever been underestimated, sidelined, or told that your way of working was obsolete, know this value doesn't vanish just because someone else can't see it. Sometimes all it takes is one quiet decision, one brave departure to rewrite the story entirely. And if you're ready to take that step, I'll be right here. If this story struck something in you, if you've ever been pushed aside for doing things the right way instead of the flashy way, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below, tell me where you're listening from. Or better yet, share a time when someone underestimated what you brought to the table. I read every single one. Because this isn't just my story, it's ours. They told me my methods were outdated, that relationships didn't scale. That experience didn't matter if it didn't come wrapped in trend decks and buzzwords. But we know better. We know trust follow-through and quiet consistency do scale. They scale across decades and entire industries. So if you're sitting at a crossroads right now, wondering if your work matters, if your legacy still has weight, I want you to know it does. You do. And you don't need to shout to be heard by the right people. Sometimes you just need to walk away quietly and build something they can't ignore. Support this story by liking, sharing, and leaving your voice in the comments. And if you haven't yet subscribed, because this journey isn't over. In fact, it's just beginning.